Have you ever noticed that the word menopause and menstruation start with the word men, even though they have nothing to do with it?
Have you ever noticed that a lot of bad things start with the name men? I mean, we can't fully blame them, but maybe a little bit.
Also, meningitis.
Also,
going mental.
I am going mental right now.
All right, welcome to Talk 50 to Me.
Talk 50 to me. Let's do it again.
You're in your mid-60s, so when you were in your 50s, what were the conversations around menopause or HRT or aging, period?
There were none. I skipped perimenopause because I got sober at 40, so I thought I was just detoxing. I didn't realize that I was going through perimenopause also. And then when menopause hit, the only thing I had ever heard was you have hot flashes. Literally, that was it. That was the only thing I ever heard. And so I think I had one hot flash. It was wild. But then I never had anything again. I didn't even know that the end of your period signals being in menopause or however that works. So I didn't know anything about it. I had 2 frozen shoulders. I later found out 10 years later were menopause. I lost 2 teeth. I later found out were menopause. I had no idea. I had a nervous breakdown over a friendship break that never would have affected me had I not been in menopause.
Who were you talking to at this time? Like, are you talking to anyone and saying, I'm losing my mind?
No one. Nobody talked about it. There was too much shame attached to it. Like the shame that's attached to your period when you're a girl and men having to go buy tampons for you at the store or having to even buy your own tampons at the store. It's like, it was just another thing about being female that is beautiful and part of the aging process that was taken away from us and shamed.
I find it absolutely fascinating because I am obviously on the opposite side that...
Yeah, you haven't shut up about it.
All right. But I think it's because when I...
Thank God.
When I took my IUD out and then went into menopause, like shot out of a cannon menopause, even then, and that was a year ago in June, okay, cut to 3 months later... Everybody's talking about it and It's everywhere and all these symptoms are coming out. And I was like, holy crap, from one person having the strength to say enough.
I think it's from all of us having the strength to say, I'm a female. This is a part of every female's life and we need to talk about it. And I think we have our first guest today to thank a lot.
No, I agree. Because I'm definitely not thanking my GP who told me, oh, you're depressed and anxious and can't sleep. Is your marriage okay? Maybe you guys should just go on a date and have a glass of wine. Give me a fucking break.
I think going on a date is the opposite of what you want to do when you're in menopause. Unless the date is with $1 million check that you get to go buy yourself whatever the fuck you want because you're sweating your balls off somewhere and your hair's frizzing.
Great.
Anyway.
On that note...
Let's get to our guest.
Let's go. 1 year ago in October, which is Menopause Awareness Month, oddly enough, our guest was only a few years into her 50s, and she did the absolute unthinkable and turned the least talked about and most taboo topic into the fastest growing movement in America, and now it's beyond, with her very first documentary called The M Factor. Followed that with her book, How to Menopause, created the world's hottest menopause party, the largest menopause-focused digital gathering to date, launched her podcast, started filming her next documentary before the pause, and went back to perform in the musical Chicago after having performed in it when she was in her mid-40s. And this is all after an Emmy Award-winning career as a journalist. We are so thrilled to have the queen of what I would like to coin the me movement, Tamsen Fadal. Yes!
gosh, I love you. Thank you.
We love you so much. We were talking about you even in our cold open about what you have done for women. It is mind-blowing that this has all been in 1 year. I can't even begin.
Yes. Thank you for taking the shame out of menopause.
Oh my gosh, I think we all have, right? I mean, I can't believe there was shame in it. But I remember hearing the word taboo constantly when I first brought it up, and I'm like, that's not okay. So I feel like we're going to get there someday where we remove all of that.
I think
stigma and shame and everything else.
There's a lot of that comes with your 50s, as you know. So we wanted to start off by asking you if you could give us one word to describe your 50s.
Oh, I would say bold. I think these are my golden years. Like, I feel like not my golden years, but they're bolden. I feel very bolden. I don't even know if bolden's a word, but like very bold during this time. Yeah.
And would you say that awareness comes from what you have done, like what you've started, or did it come before that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it came with it a little bit. I started to feel that a little bit when I was, 50 years old was this. I turned 50 during COVID. So I was like, oh, I don't know. So it was really 51 that I kind of like got to really get out there and see this age. But I think some of it was 50. And I think some of it was really talking to more women at this age and going, oh, why does she not give a crap? Or why is she like so like out there and happy and not worried about what everyone else thinks? And why am I so hampered down with everybody else's opinion of me? And I think I kept seeing that over and over again with really good examples. So I think it was a little bit of both. It was age and then seeing that, which is why I think I love to see women our age as examples to this younger generation.
Yeah.
Because imagine what you're going to think of 50 as.
Yeah.
Right? Versus what I thought 50 was like, oh,
yeah.
Don't put me there ever.
It's funny because you celebrated your 50th while Constance celebrated her 50th and I celebrated my 60th in that bubble. And that's the time when you really did need other people to talk to about what you were feeling. It's like we emerged from it like, what is this?
Well, also because I didn't get to have that big party. I don't know if you did. Did you have a party? Yeah.
No, we had a couple of people over. Like I said, I had an illegal 50th birthday party. Remember, like you weren't even supposed to go with 6 people. And so I had that. That was it. And it was like sad. I got like a dress online, and I went, I'm going to celebrate. And then it wasn't a celebrate. It felt really weird. It felt really, really weird. And no, so I didn't get to. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, my 50th birthday, I went to France, and I'm like, oh, I went to my dining room table for my 50th birthday. And yeah, so what did you do?
As Constance likes to say, it's not that big a deal anyway, because everything fucking falls apart after the party anyway. And, it's like, it's okay. You can throw yourself a party later when you've adjusted to everything. But like, did you ever expect that what you're doing with this movement would be so massive? Like Constance said, she heard there's an estrogen shortage.
I know, right?
There's an estrogen shortage, and it's a billion women are going to be in menopause like in the next year, right?
Yeah, 1 billion women, and
that's a lot of anger.
I gotta harness it for something. No, I didn't, because I never thought of it as I never thought of it as anything but like, oh, there's some new information. I got to get it out there. Some new information, because that's all I ever did in my life as a journalist, like being a conduit, kind of like, here it is. Here's what you need to know. And so I didn't think of it like that initially. And we had such a reaction to the documentary when we were trying to do it. Like, nobody wanted to fund it. Nobody wanted to, put it on television. Everyone told me it was a small niche audience. So there was never, so to me, it wasn't going to be a movement, wasn't even a word for me. It was like, oh, I hope we can get this made. That was literally my low hanging fruit. And then somebody said, I think this documentary is going to be a big deal. And I'm like, I don't know. Because we had been said no to so many times that why would I think that? And now I look and, we're getting emails from like literally all over the world. And we've been in over 45 countries now with it, translated in all different languages. And so,
that's beautiful.
I think the world needs this information though, like, right, what we're all talking about.
Yeah.
So what I have found so wonderful about what you've created, and I'm curious if this reach you had any idea about, is you shared on one of your stories that this mom bought the book for her like 12-year-old daughter. And I've never seen a 12-year-old so excited about reading a book about how to menopause. And her interview, she was like, I'm so excited to learn about what my mom is going through and what I have to look forward to in the future. And that blew my mind. Like,
that's powerful.
Did you know that you were going to be reaching like the children of these women?
No, but you know what? Can you imagine if we'd have been talking about this at that age, how this would have been a blip on our radar? We would have been like, going through this, and this is what happens. I mean, could you imagine the freedom that's going to come with that? But I had no idea. Her mother brought her to a signing, and she came up and she said it to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't even believe this little girl. And I said to her mom, can we record this and like just have her tell me what she thinks? And she did, and we did. And her mom's like, yeah, of course. Like, she wants to go to medical school one day. There's so many things she wants to do, and so I couldn't believe it. And then I just got off the phone before we got on here with a little girl that's had reached out to me from college in Michigan and wanted to know what she could start doing now in college. So she was really making an impact when it came to women's health, in particular perimenopause and menopause.
That's awesome.
I was in college. I don't know what I was doing in college. Well, I do know what I was doing in college. Stay here. I probably was too. I mean, at least half of the time. So I couldn't believe it, but I think that those are those conversations that make me go, oh yeah, this is why we keep doing what we're doing.
It's also the other thing that you do, which, as a journalist and as a woman who, gets into her 40s and 50s as a journalist on camera, we all know what happens in that world and what they tell us, and that you're not allowed on camera anymore. And so it's really remarkable the work that you do on Instagram. You are a content machine. And I think seeing you out there and talking about all of these things is also so incredibly important.
Because you're not only talking about menopause. I think
you're talking about midlife and aging.
You've been so wonderful about opening up about the reality that not all women are going to have kids. Not all women are going to get married. And that's okay. And these are conversations that have not been just put out on social media. And I
did have a question.
Oh yeah, go ask.
How are you such a content machine, and how does it feel to put yourself out there like that? Because it's very difficult for a lot of women our age to do it.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't do it for a long time though. Like I didn't talk about not having kids or not being married for a long time because I was afraid to. And so and you're right, because it wasn't ever talked about. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do it. But again, when I got older, I was like, what? This is what's happening. I think that the interesting part is that I never talked about not having children, because in news in particular, and I did the morning show for a very long time, they wanted you to be like this, buttoned up, like, I have children, I'm married, like I remember my boss saying to me, like, you don't really fit the mold of this. You don't have a family, you don't have children. I mean, this is like back in when they could say kind of anything to you, change your name, that's why I'm always sort of, well, like my name is so, it's a difficult name. And so he was like, could you change that name to something a little more girl next door? So I've heard so those like run in your head forever, right? But yeah, I guess I feel, I always get a little bit nervous even now, like when I put something out there that I think that some people are not going to, be receptive to. And so sometimes people don't like to hear that, originally didn't want to hear about not having children. And I got this answer that was like, who's going to take care of you? That's the only kind of love you'll ever know.
I get that one a lot.
Well, I just felt like I always felt like something was either wrong with me, or that I should just keep it to myself. And so I don't want young women to feel like that, because that was some crappy years that I should have really embraced that part,
Did you go through a moment where had you wanted to have kids and go through that moment? I mean, because I remember I did want to have kids and I didn't want to have kids. And when I finally realized that I couldn't have children anymore, I had a moment. Did you have a moment?
Yeah, I had a moment when I hit menopause. It was interesting. Like my husband and I had already talked about when we weren't going to have kids. And then I got this note in my patient portal that, said I'm in menopause. And I was like, "Oh, I'm in menopause. I can't have children now." And he goes, we talked about that like 4 years ago, didn't we? And I go, yeah, but now it says I can't. And he's like, what? So I think that moment was a defining moment. I think, my mom was sick for a long time when I grew up. And so I really did a reverse childhood kind of. I always was the caretaker there. And I think that I did a lot of caretaking at that age. And I don't know if that's what played a reason. I mean, I love children, but and then I went through a divorce at, right there in my, right there around 40, 41 years old when we had the conversation. And so it didn't happen for me. And I think I never had this like hard line in the sand because I was afraid to make a decision. I didn't know what I should be. I was afraid and guilty of making that kind of decision because I don't think a lot of women talked about it then. Then it was okay to say like, hey, I think that kids are not for me.
Yeah.
And I think we are setting a new standard for women to do what works for them. We've all been expected to do what works for everyone else. And that has not turned out great for a lot of people, right? So why not? Why not be the generation that is changing that narrative for women to be allowed to say no to this and yes to this? And maybe
live your
to
own
this.
Life.
Right, live your own life.
Actually live your life, which has never been allowed.
Right, but also we had a question for Tamsen about the word no.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I saw a post you did about how we should start saying yes to everything. And I've like flipped since I hit 60, which is, no is a complete sentence. And that I needed to start saying no more because I was such a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And I do like coming from a place of yes, but I was curious about that, to talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well, I think I definitely say no when I want to say no, but I think I was starting to like say no to everything. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm missing out on something now. And I wasn't getting out in person with people and I wasn't doing some of the things that I think were good. And so I just decided like, I'm going to flip it a little bit for myself and just see what else that brings me. Cause I do think sometimes I find myself very like, it could be isolated. It could be very easy to just like dismiss everything and then not show up for other people. And then I was thinking about the people that said yes to me, when they didn't probably want to go do something, and it made me really happy. And it happened recently when I did that Broadway appearance that you mentioned, which was like this one night that was really special and cool for me. But I think if somebody had asked me to come see them on Broadway that one night, I would have been like, oh, I don't know. Why are you asking me to do this? And I probably would have, but I saw this table of people that said yes and came out there, and I had like 17 people came and said yes.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, okay, you're gonna stop being a jerk, Tamsen, and you're going to start saying yes more.
Yeah, I think we do have to put out what we want back.
Now.
Yeah, now you can say no.
I know. Well, we are taught in improv that you you say yes and
my yes and is yes and no.
Right.
What do you mean yes and?
So
what's yes and?
In improv, you don't ever want to cut an idea or something right off by saying no. Instead, you want to address that person saying yes and then you give the rebuttal, right? So that it keeps it open.
You keep the conversation going.
Yeah, you keep it running. But I've been doing that in my daily life. My husband will give me an idea or something and I'll say yes and he said, "Can I just stop you? Because it's basically you're going to say no. This is you just softening the blow."
Oh damn! You were caught. Well, my husband hasn't heard this yet, so I'm going to use it.
Okay,
I'm
do
take
it.
From you. Thank you.
I do want to ask. I do want to ask you about sort of the reason why we have you here, because I am constantly blown away by how little women know about menopause and hormone replacement. And I think if you could give us like your hottest tip for, I think I'm in menopause, what do I do now?
Yeah. I think I'm in menopause. What do I do now? One, look at your symptoms. Make sure you are, and you can figure it out. You're still having your period. You're probably in perimenopause. If you're not having your period anymore, you can safely, most likely, say that you're in menopause. Right? I think I would make sure that I find somebody, whether it's online or in person, to be able to talk to about options. And then I think that I would want to know what possible options there are, but bring them in yourself too, whether hormone therapy is an option for you, which could be a combination of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, vaginal estrogen, and then also a combination of what other lifestyle changes could be helpful. How do I get to sleep? That was like my number one. Somebody asked me, like, what's the most important symptom? And it took me a long time to think about it. I'm like, brain fog. And then I went, you know what? The most important thing to address is sleep. And you can start addressing that at 20 years old or 30 years old or 40 years old. And so I think that would be my focus if I were going into a doctor, aside from if, they were bleeding or something. So I think addressing sleep and figuring out what those lifestyle changes could be for it, along with hormone therapy if it's an option. And then also kind of drilling down on what those other symptoms are of, do I need to add protein to my diet? Should I do a bone density test? And, what should I do in the gym? I mean, those are the main things that you can actively change on one side and then find out on the other. So you kind of have 4 questions to go in there with.
And what do you do when your doctor says no? Because I get that a lot.
Somebody said to me, you should educate your doctor. And I said, yeah, I understand that part, but I also understand that a lot of women are struggling right now, and we're having a tough enough time educating ourselves. And I think that there are enough practitioners out there, whether you want to go to a virtual place like MIDI, or you want to go to a doctor, or you want to go to menopausesociety.org and find your zip code in there and find a practitioner that does menopause. There are enough options out there where I think that you could find somebody else and feel like you're not educating them, so you can feel confident in the treatment you're getting, because that's the most important thing.
Okay.
You can't walk out of the doctor's office and be like, oh, I sure hope that was a good decision that I made for myself.
Right.
I think that you want to have a partner in your doctor.
So be a bit of a troublemaker, which leads me to the question. You said you are no longer being the good girl. What does that mean, Tamsen?
Well, it's all the things that we've been doing all this time. I mean, there's other things too, that. But that's all the things we've been doing this time. Like, making sure we're pleasing everybody first, putting everybody else up at the top, and then I can kind of squeeze in at the bottom. Saying yes constantly, not talking about things that I'm not supposed to talk about in public, which I talk about kind of everything now in public. And not being afraid of, I don't want to say, of bringing up any type of conversation, but bringing up this conversation because it's not been comfortable, right, for a lot of women, but I think it's necessary for their long-term health. I think it's really necessary. My 85-year-old dad said to me last night, he goes, I was talking to a friend of mine's wife, and I said, I asked her, how's your menopause doing? And I go, Dad, did she say that she was in menopause, or did you just assume that she was in menopause, or do you understand what menopause, because I gave him a bunch of my books, and I was like, give them out if you know any of your friends' daughters, or I don't know who. My dad's 85, and so he goes, no, I just assumed she was, and I was like, well, maybe I'll do what my dad's doing. How's your menopause?
I love it. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Before
we're going to
that-
do it.
Before that, we have
Yes.
our last question.
Our last question.
Before the surprise
So
question.
outside,
I want to see what's in there.
I know. So outside of menopause, what is the best advice that you could give to women entering their 50s, like entering this decade of their life?
Really step back and assess, is this what I want? Like, what do you want? It's like 4 words. What do you want? It doesn't mean that you have to turn it around and have it tomorrow. But I think you'd really look at how your life is. What do you want in your relationship? What do you want in your work environment? What do you want Monday to Friday to look like versus Saturday to Sunday? And I think those are hard questions. I don't think they're quite as easy as like putting together a carousel for Instagram. I think I think there's some deep thought, But I would really implore women to do that, because I think some scary things come out of it and some great things can come out of it too.
By the way, I think that's a piece of content that you should shoot. 4 words. What do you want?
Agreed.
Okay, this is our little surprise question.
Everybody gets one surprise question,
And
just so people understand that
It may be
nobody's been
spicy.
prepped.
It may be spicy.
Might be spicy.
Okay. I'm
or it
ready.
might not be. What is one thing you are still struggling with? What is one thing you are still struggling with?
That's a good one. I think I am still struggling with organization these days. Like I have not. I feel like my day has been ruled by my to-do list the past few months, and I want to get out of that habit. Like I'm chasing. You know what I mean? Like the list and the getting through the inbox, and I'm trying to like chill back from that. So I took a 4-day vacation. I went to Turks and Caicos. Didn't have any.
Oh, I love it there.
Inbox. That kind of stuff. Yeah, I just had like the pool, and I read a book.
Oh.
I actually read a hardcover book.
Do you want to tell us what it was?
Yes, it's called Project Hail Mary. It's so good. It's
Okay.
going to be a movie like here, and it with Ryan Gosling. Actually, it's just it was a good book, and I sat by the pool and just read, and I felt so old school, and I was like, this is what I want to have added to some of my days. Like I was looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I haven't read a hardcover book, in a long time.
Well, you did create your new grind, Tamsen, and we thank you so much for it, and we thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
We love you, and we're so inspired by you, and we thank you on behalf of all women all over the world.
Thank you for talking.
Thank you. We love you.
First of all, love her.
Yeah.
And I think, anyways, I just want to say I love her. But I want to ask you something, because I think this is what people wouldn't know about you. Have you ever had a good girl persona? And if so,
no, I've always been the black sheep. I've always been too loud. I've always cursed too much. I've always said all the things you're not supposed to say. It's only now in my 60s that it's been acceptable to be who I am, because we have a beautiful Gen Z who is also feeling the way that I felt when I was 30. But nobody else expressed themselves that way, at least people I didn't know. And what I find so interesting about these conversations now, and why I love this podcast so much, is when I was in my 50s, there was no Gen X telling me that it was cool to be 50 and loud. And so I didn't get to be fuck the good girl until 60. So you're all really lucky that there is this world where you're being told how amazing 50 is, because I had to suffer for 10 years.
Right. And I agree with you. I think it's a lot of the reason why we wanted to do this podcast, because there are so many women in their 50s being loud and sharing their vulnerabilities and talking about things that people talk about in a room, by themselves, into their journal.
Yeah.
And people are letting those journal entries come out now. And I have been so inspired by this generation, because I do think, like, look, I have a daughter. I really would like her to be excited about her 50s. I have been told my whole life, when you get to 50, it's over.
Yeah.
And, the parties that I saw as a kid when people turned 50, there were gravestones and black balloons, and the decorations were black. And it was like, it's all over now. It's all downhill from here. Changing that narrative is so exciting to me. Like how she changed the narrative on menopause, it opened the door for these conversations.
Yeah, because menopause used to be considered the end. You're over. You're no longer able to have children. You're no longer sexually viable. It's over.
Yeah, it's like, guess
this
what?
whole generation is saying, fuck that. And I wish my generation said that along with me. I didn't even say it when I was in my 50s. I was so busy being depressed,
right,
and lost and invisible.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting now to talk to all the women we've talked to. They don't say that anymore. Anyway.
No, they don't. But I think it is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. Like, that is.
I love being uncomfortable. I love making other people uncomfortable. Is that weird?
I don't. I
do.
Not.
I really like making
feeling.
people think. And yeah. But that is all the time we have for today, Constance.
Oh, damn it.
So please follow us on Instagram at Talk50to Me. Subscribe to our email list to get Talk50to Me updates and announcements. If you have a question, DM us on IG or email at talk50tomepod@gmail.com. And remember to like and subscribe wherever you find your favorite podcast. Sharing is caring. See you next Tuesday. Bye now.
Talk 50 to Me with Heidi Clements and Constance Zimmer is produced by Alex Beatty, recording engineer Aaliyah Walker, editing by Zaleen Hesse, music by Matt Friedman, production services provided by A4S Podcast Studios, a Talk 50 to Me LLC production distributed by the Forward Network.